Unfortunately, the food that I love to eat and the addiction that I now have is killing me. And I know I'm almost out of time.
Back in 2012, TLC premiered My 600-Pound Life, a series that pulled viewers into the hidden world of people battling extreme obesity. Every participant began their journey weighing between 500 and 600 pounds, trapped in bodies that no longer allowed them to live freely.
Oh! Make me up, please.
Baby, overthinking it.
It's broken! I'm not gonna follow the damn thing!
Under the guidance of Dr. Nowzaradan, better known as Dr. Now, they faced strict diets, grueling weigh-ins, and the possibility of life-saving surgery. But behind every episode was more than just food. It was about trauma, broken families, and the crushing weight of addiction.
Eating, it makes me feel good, it makes me feel safe, it makes me feel happy. It takes away all my pain and depression. So no matter what it's costing me and how much I hate my life, I can't stop.
Some found redemption, while others spiraled deeper into tragedy. Among them was Sean Milliken, a young man whose story became one of the most haunting in the series. At over 900 pounds, bedbound and dependent on his mother, Sean revealed the painful cost of obesity and the fragile line between survival and loss. Entering the world of reality TV. Have you ever wondered what life would be like at over 900 pounds? Imagine being so heavy that standing up feels impossible. Breathing requires extra effort, and every simple task depends on someone else. That was the reality for Sean Milliken when he appeared on My 600-Pound Life in the year 2016. At just 26 years old, Sean wasn't only one of the heaviest participants the show had ever featured, he was also one of the most heartbreaking. His body was a prison, but the true weight he carried came from years of trauma, dependence, and emotional pain. For Sean, even the smallest steps toward change felt like climbing a mountain, and audiences were left stunned as they witnessed his struggle unfold. Living in his mother's home, Sean could barely stand without assistance. Moving even a few steps left him short of breath. His entire world existed within the walls of his bedroom, with Renee providing food, care, and constant attention. Yet despite the enabling dynamic, she was also the one who pushed Sean to seek help from Dr. Nowzaradan, known simply as Dr. Now, the tough but compassionate surgeon who had transformed the lives of countless patients before. Sean's first meeting with Dr. Now was a wake-up call. The doctor made it clear Sean's weight was not just a challenge, it was a life-or-death situation. Without drastic changes, Sean's body would not survive much longer. But the path to surgery was not simple. Dr. Now insisted Sean lose weight on his own first through strict dieting and discipline before he could even be considered for a gastric bypass. For Sean, this was both terrifying and hopeful. On one hand, the idea of changing lifelong habits seemed impossible. On the other, surgery offered a chance, maybe his only chance at freedom. But it wasn't just about Sean. His mother's role loomed over every decision. She wanted to see her son live, but her instinct to comfort him with food often clashed with the strict regimen Dr. Now demanded. The tension between hope and struggle played out on national television. Viewers witnessed Sean's small victories and crushing setbacks. Every weigh-in became a moment of suspense, not just for Sean, but for the millions who tuned in. Would he succeed in shedding enough pounds to qualify for surgery? Could he break free from the habits that had dominated his entire life? But Sean's struggles didn't begin when the cameras started rolling. His weight wasn't just a number on a scale, it was the result of years of pain, habits, and family dynamics that had shaped him since childhood. Early life and the struggle. Sean Milliken's story begins in California, where he grew up as an only child navigating the turbulence of a fractured family. His parents divorced when he was still young, and the emotional fallout from that separation left scars that food quickly began to fill. While some kids turned to sports or friends for comfort, Sean found solace in meals. A plate of fast food, a bag of chips, or sweets became more than nourishment. They became his coping mechanism. By the time Sean entered his teenage years, his weight had skyrocketed. He was already tipping past 400 pounds in high school, and with that weight came limitations that most of his peers never had to think about. Simple activities, walking between classes, sitting at a desk, joining in gym sessions, were sources of humiliation. He was teased and excluded, and instead of motivating him, the cruelty of classmates drove him deeper into isolation. The cycle continued. Loneliness led to more eating, and more eating led to more weight. Sean's mother, Renee, was both his strongest supporter and, unintentionally, one of the reasons his struggles grew worse. She adored her son and wanted to shield him from the harshness of the world. But her love sometimes took the form of enabling, offering Sean comfort through food rather than addressing the problem head-on. Their bond was deep, but it was complicated, one built on love, fear, and habits that would later prove devastating. At home, Sean's world shrank as his body grew. Everyday tasks became increasingly difficult. He could no longer move around freely, and his dependence on Renee grew stronger. By his early 20s, Sean was mostly confined to his room, relying on his mother for basic needs. Behind closed doors, the reality was grim. Sean's health was deteriorating, his weight climbing into dangerous territory, and his dreams of a normal life seemed to slip further away with each passing year. For Sean, the moment of reckoning came when cameras arrived to document his life. By then, his weight had surpassed 900 pounds and his survival was on the line. By the time Sean's story unfolded on national television, his survival was already hanging by a thread. That's when the fight for change truly began, and the decisions ahead would mean the difference between life and death. The fight for change. Sean Milliken's journey on My 600-Pound Life moved into its most critical stage when he finally became eligible for bariatric surgery. After months of struggling with Dr. Now's strict diet plan, Sean managed to lose enough weight to qualify for the procedure. For many viewers, this moment felt like a turning point, finally a glimpse of hope after years of decline. The surgery itself was only one part of the battle. Sean's body had endured decades of strain from carrying nearly 1,000 pounds, and even with weight loss, his health issues did not vanish overnight. Recovery was painful, demanding, and emotionally draining. He had to adjust to drastically smaller portions, fight cravings that had defined his entire life, and build the discipline to stay on track. At first, the results were promising. Sean began to shed weight, and for the first time in years, he experienced what it felt like to move more freely. Small victories, standing up with less effort, walking without as much pain, were monumental steps toward reclaiming independence. But every step forward seemed to come with new challenges. The relationship with his mother, Renee, continued to cast a shadow. While she wanted to see Sean succeed, her protective instincts often clashed with the tough love Dr. Now enforced. Sean depended on her emotionally and physically, but breaking free from old patterns meant redefining that relationship. The tension between mother and son became one of the most emotional aspects of his journey, with viewers torn between empathy and frustration. Outside of his family, Sean also wrestled with deeper psychological battles. Food was not just nourishment for him, it was comfort, a shield against loneliness, and a response to years of bullying and trauma. Surgery could change his stomach, but it could not heal the wounds that led him there in the first place. Despite these obstacles, Sean continued to push forward, though progress came slowly. He remained under the spotlight of reality television, his setbacks and victories dissected by millions. What the show captured during this period was raw and human. The reality that transformation is never a straight line, it is a fight that requires both body and mind to heal. But as powerful as surgery and early victories were, the real test came when the cameras stopped rolling. Without the structure of the show, Sean's fight against old habits and new challenges entered its most fragile phase. Life after the spotlight. When the cameras of My 600-Pound Life stopped rolling, Sean Milliken was left with a reality far heavier than any number on a scale. For a while, the world had watched his every move, offering encouragement, judgment, and curiosity. But once the spotlight dimmed, Sean faced the silence of his own battles. Without the structure of regular check-ins, without the momentum of a television audience, and without the same level of medical support. Progress slowed. The routines that had been carefully crafted under Dr. Now's supervision began to falter. Sean's health remained fragile, and without strict adherence to diet and exercise, his weight began creeping back. But the most devastating blow was yet to come. In the year 2018, Sean's mother, Renee, passed away. For Sean, this loss was catastrophic. His mother had been his anchor, his caretaker, his enabler, his companion, and his lifeline. Their bond, though complicated, defined much of Sean's life. Without her, he was left adrift. Friends and extended family offered some support, but no one could truly fill the void Renee left behind. The impact of her death went beyond grief. Sean's dependence on his mother had been profound. physically, emotionally, and logistically. She had been the one to cook for him, help him move, and advocate for him during medical visits. With her gone, even basic survival became a struggle. The walls of isolation closed in tighter than ever before. Reports from people close to Sean painted a picture of a young man deeply depressed and struggling to cope. He no longer had the daily push or presence that had, for better or worse, structured his life. Food once again became both a comfort and a curse. His health continued to spiral downward. For viewers who remembered Sean's episodes on My 600-Pound Life, this period marked a heartbreaking turn. The boy who had once been given a second chance now seemed to be losing his battle. Without the cameras, Sean's story might have faded into obscurity, but what came next brought him back into headlines in the most tragic way possible. However, after the loss of his mother in 2018, Sean Milliken's life entered a downward spiral that became increasingly difficult to reverse. Grief weighed heavily on him, not only emotionally but physically. Without Renee's constant presence and care, Sean's already fragile health deteriorated even faster. He was only in his late 20s, but his body had endured decades of extreme strain, and every system was under pressure. Those who had followed Sean's journey on My 600-Pound Life held on to hope that he might recover, that perhaps he would find a new support system or reignite his determination to fight. But the reality was far more heartbreaking. Sean's depression deepened and his health conditions, already severe, continued to worsen. By early 2019, Sean faced yet another devastating setback. He was hospitalized due to a severe infection, a reminder of just how vulnerable his body had become. While in the hospital, his situation took a tragic turn. Sean suffered complications from the infection, and in February of that year, he passed away at just 29 years old. News of his death sent shockwaves through fans of the show. At such a young age, Sean's story felt unfinished. His potential for transformation cut short before it had a chance to fully unfold. For viewers, the announcement was a painful reminder that not every story on My 600-Pound Life ends with triumph. Some end in tragedy, underscoring the brutal reality of extreme obesity and the toll it takes on both body and mind. Sean's father confirmed the news in a heartfelt statement, expressing both sorrow and pride in his son's fight. Though Sean had struggled, he had also displayed courage by allowing the world to witness his vulnerabilities. Millions of viewers had connected with his journey, and his passing left many reflecting on the challenges he endured and the humanity behind the headlines. Sean Milliken's final years were marked by profound loss, illness, and ultimately, a tragic ending. But even in death, his story continued to resonate, sparking conversations about obesity, mental health, and the role of support systems in recovery. Sean's final years were filled with heartbreak and loss, and his story ended far too soon. Yet even in tragedy, what he left behind continues to echo, raising questions about obesity, mental health, and the importance of true support systems. Reflection and legacy. Sean Milliken's story is remembered not just because of its tragic ending, but because of what it revealed about the struggles so many people face in silence. His journey peeled back the curtain on the realities of living with extreme obesity, realities that go far beyond numbers on a scale. At its heart, Sean's life was about more than food. It was about trauma, family, coping, and the way emotional wounds manifest in the body. His parents' divorce during his childhood set the stage for habits that would shape his entire life. What began as comfort eating grew into dependency, and over time, dependency became life-threatening. Sean was not simply eating himself into immobility. He was eating to fill gaps left by loneliness, bullying, and unresolved pain. His relationship with his mother, Renee, was another central theme. To many, their bond was both heartbreaking and complicated. She was his caretaker, his protector, and at times his enabler. Without her, he would not have survived as long as he did. Yet with her, he struggled to make the independent choices necessary for long-term change. Their story highlighted a truth that resonates with countless families. Love can sometimes blur into enabling, and breaking that cycle is one of the hardest battles of all. When Sean Milliken allowed cameras into his life in 2016, he did more than share his struggles. He put a human face on an issue often mocked and misunderstood. Millions watched as he confronted medical warnings, crushing limitations, and emotional breakdowns. His journey was raw, painful, and deeply relatable, touching on universal themes of loss, hope, and resilience. Sean's passing at just 29 was a stark reminder that not every battle finds victory. His story showed how depression, grief, and trauma can intertwine with physical health, fueling cycles nearly impossible to break without true support. It also highlighted how love can blur into enabling, and how recovery demands more than surgery or diet. It requires healing at the root. Even in tragedy, Sean's courage left lessons about compassion and the hidden costs of obesity, ensuring his legacy endures far beyond the show. Sean Milliken's life was filled with pain, love, and the constant fight to change against impossible odds. His journey may not have ended in the triumph we all hoped for, but it left behind something just as powerful, a reminder of how fragile life can be and how deeply our struggles are tied to the people and emotions around us. Sean's story is not just about loss, it is about humanity, resilience, and the need for compassion. As we remember him, we are reminded that every battle we see on screen is at its core profoundly real.